There was foreign support behind this to organize this attack against the Egyptian army. Be careful of plots against you. We know what's going on, and we will now move forward.
Now, Egypt's presidential office has declared a 3-month state of emergency in the north and center of the Sinai Peninsula after at least 31 army soldiers were killed in 2 separate attacks in the region. Egypt also decided to close the Rafah crossing to Gaza in the wake of the attacks. The measures were taken after 28 soldiers were killed and 30 injured in a car bombing that targeted a military checkpoint in Sheikh Zayed. It was the deadliest attack on the army in decades. Hours later, 3 soldiers were killed when militants opened fire at a checkpoint in El Arish, close to the border with the Gaza Strip. The attacks have significantly increased since the ouster of President Mohamed Morsi in 2013. An Al-Qaeda offshoot called Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis has claimed responsibility for most of the attacks. For more on this, let's go to Cairo and talk to Press TV's Karim Gimaluddin, our correspondent.
Well, there's been more unrest in Egypt. At least 25 soldiers have been killed in a bomb blast in the restive Sinai Peninsula. Security sources say a bomber rammed his explosive-packed car into an army checkpoint in Karm al-Khawadis. The area is close to Egypt's border with the Gaza Strip. Nearly 30 other soldiers were also wounded, with some of them reportedly in critical condition. Egypt's eastern desert has been the scene of violence for some time now. The attacks have significantly increased since last year's ouster of President Mohamed Morsi. An Al-Qaeda offshoot called Ansar Bayt al-Maqdis has claimed responsibility for most of these assaults.
Egyptian troops have killed 16 militants in the restive Sinai Peninsula. The offensive was launched against militant hideouts in 3 villages near Rafah on the Egypt-Gaza borderline. Officials also reported that 4 militant commanders were arrested during the operation. The militants have claimed most of the major attacks in Sinai since last year. They also recently beheaded several people they accused of spying for Israel.
Take us into the world after the election for a moment. If the Muslim Brotherhood Party wins this election, is there room still in that Egypt for you?
Till the end.
ثورة 30 يونيو العظيمة، الثورة التاريخية اللي وقفت يعني وأوقفت القنبلة الموقوتة اللي اسمها الخلافة الإسلامية المزعومة.
وسيذكر التاريخ فيما بعد أن الفريق الأول عبد الفتاح السيسي أنقذ مصر من الإخوان.
ما هي الإنجازات التي سيذكرها التاريخ؟
وأنقذ المنطقة العربية من الإخوان، وأنقذ الدول العربية جميعا من الإخوان الذين كانوا يخططون لخلاف لقيام.
طيب ماذا أنجز في 4 أشهر؟
Egypt. Here there is no 2 schools of thoughts in Israel. Only 1 school of thought. The change in Egypt in the last summer was positive. We see it as the continuation of the Tahrir Square revolution that was hijacked by the Muslim Brotherhood and was on its way to become an Islamic extreme radical regime, very much like Iran. Morsi never mentioned the name of Israel. He called us pigs and monkeys. Never met any Israeli delegation, and we thought that Egypt went to the wrong direction. Fortunately, we weren't the only one who thought that. 20 million Egyptians have the same idea. I remind you that only 14 million voted for Morsi.
Turkish Prime Minister Recep Tayyip Erdogan has said he was saddened by Washington's reaction to comments he made earlier this week regarding Israel's ostensible involvement in the military takeover in Egypt. Speaking at a meeting of his ruling Justice and Development Party, Erdogan said that his government could prove Israel's involvement and cited as purported evidence a statement made during a 2011 panel discussion with Jewish intellectual Bernard Henry Levy and then opposition leader Tzipi Livni in France. Erdogan said the U.S. should not have responded to his comments because his remarks were aimed at Israel and not at the United States. Asked the comment about Erdogan's statement, an Israeli government official responded with one word: nonsense. The Egyptian interim government has also rejected Erdogan's statement as baseless, irrational, and very bewildering.
أنا عايز أقول لك مش أنا اللي نهيتها. أنتم يا مصريين اللي نهيتوها. المصريين قالوا لا. قالوا في 30/6 لا. ودلوقتي بيقولوا لا. المشكلة مش معايا أنا. المشكلة مع الشعب المصري. ما حدش يا أستاذ إبراهيم مهما كان قدرته هيستطيع إنه يعني يقوم بإجراءات لا يرضى عنها الرأي العام في مصر.
صحيح. عارف إنك بتنهي جماعة الإخوان، يعني هو بيضع بطاقة التصويت وهو يعلم أن مرشحه الذي أرادوا واختاروا وانتخبوا لن تكون في مدة رئاسته شيء اسمه جماعة الإخوان المسلمين؟
أيوه.
Almost certain to become the country's next leader. Hugely popular with millions of ordinary Egyptians for toppling former President Mohamed Morsi last July, he's expected to win elections later this month with ease. And now, just weeks before the vote, he's given his first major interview on primetime television. Looking confident and relaxed and wearing a civilian suit, he said he'd been the victim of 2 separate assassination attempts. But despite the danger, he said he had no fear of death or any mortal enemy.
I know that no one will take my life before my time has come, nor will they extend it. The length of my life is already written. I have no fear.
When asked about the fate of Mr. Morsi's Muslim Brotherhood Party, which has now been banned under Egyptian law, he said it was the Egyptian people, not him, who had brought their rule to an end.
It's not me who put an end to them. You, the Egyptians, put an end to them. Their problem is not with me personally. Their problem is with the Egyptian people. No one, no matter how powerful he may be, can take steps that the Egyptian people do not agree with.
And he said a senior Brotherhood leader had even threatened to flood the country with foreign jihadis as revenge for their removal from power.
He asked
24 Egyptian policemen have been killed in an ambush attack in the Sinai Peninsula, close to the town of Rafah on the Gaza border. The military have reportedly, with Israeli support, recently intensified a crackdown against militants in the Sinai, where attacks have surged since the fall of Hosni Mubarak in 2011. Egypt's military-backed government has declared a state of emergency amid the nationwide unrest, which followed the ousting of Mohamed Morsi as president on July 3rd. Israel's Iron Dome defense system was last week called into action to shoot down rockets fired by Sinai militants aimed at Israel's Red Sea resort of Eilat, with Al-Qaeda-linked groups, which have taken root among the increasingly radicalized local Bedouin, suspected of being responsible.
January 21st, 2009. The first head of state that Obama called as president was Palestinian PLO chairman Mahmoud Abbas. Abbas works alongside Hamas, the Muslim Brotherhood terrorist organization whose charter calls for the annihilation of Israel. The Obama administration is currently gorged with Muslim Brotherhood operatives hiding behind the mask of front groups masquerading as Muslim outreach groups. Mohammed El-Biari, who gave a speech in 2004 honoring the Ayatollah Khamenei, known as the face of Islamic terrorism, is now the head of Obama's Homeland Security Advisory Council. Instead of working to keep America safe, however, El-Biari is currently working behind the scenes to return the Muslim Brotherhood back to power in Egypt. He has even gone so far as placing the so-called four-finger Muslim Brotherhood salute on his Twitter avatar. The symbol is used in support for ousted Muslim Brotherhood Egyptian President Mohamed Morsi.
The people of Egypt have spoken, their voices have been heard, and Egypt will never be the same. By stepping down, President Mubarak responded to the Egyptian people's hunger for change.
Obama's Islamic dictator, Muslim Brotherhood President Mohamed Morsi, was quickly raised up and immediately amended the Egyptian constitution to give himself dictatorial powers. He then purged the judiciary and military of judges and generals that weren't Islamist. Morsi then went about hunting down his enemies, going on a rampage of torture and murder, including openly crucifying Christians. Barack Hussein Obama, our Muslim Brotherhood commander-in-chief, all the while continued to support Morsi and sent him $1.3 billion in support of his Islamic dictatorship. But the Egyptian people quickly tired of Obama's Islamic brother-in-arms and threw him out, the first country to reject one of Obama's Islamic dictators.
That the whole world should support Sisi. I believe that
the new Egyptian
I think that you have to support him. If we support him, it probably will embarrass him. It probably won't help him. But Sisi and the liberals, Baradei and others, they deserve the support of the free world. To who else they can turn?
Abdel Fattah El-Sisi was sworn in as Egypt's sixth president in June of 2014. This was almost a year after the coup he led as head of Egypt's armed forces removed Mohamed Morsi from power. Morsi was a prominent member of the Muslim Brotherhood. On becoming president, El-Sisi immediately called for an inclusive government. He urged Egyptians to be ready for the hard work phase. From a perilously weak economy to the ongoing existential threat posed by Islamic militants such as ISIS, Egypt faces no shortage of challenges. El-Sisi addressed the challenge of terrorism in a recent speech.
The real solution is to recognize the problem and how big of a problem, or the size of this problem, and to move towards solve and overcome this problem. And by the will of God, and by God alone, and through you Egyptians, all the Egyptian people, and all the loyal and the honorable citizens, we will fulfill the hope that we basically look towards and we look upon. The next topic that is very important that we talk about together is that we face a challenge, a real challenge that faces. I'll talk about our martyrs who fell in the past couple of days at Al-Arish. We mentioned that we are facing terrorism and with people who seek to destroy this nation and consider us not one of them. Consider us enemies.
Egypt is a pivotal country in the region, and it is the bedrock of stability in the area. And remember that Egypt was the first country to clinch peace agreement with Israel, and Egypt by this is candidate to play a more influential role. I don't think many countries can undertake the role that Egypt can do. I believe Egypt can work freely with both sides, the Israelis and the Palestinians. Egypt enjoys credibility with both sides, Israelis and Palestinians. This is one important issue. If we can succeed to reach real peace, we will be able to achieve a lot in the region.